So what does it mean to be on your Grizzly? It means hard work, dedication, and it means progress beyond your Grizzly. Hard work, dedication, and progress.
I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me.
Coming to you from the City of Angels, this is the Grizzly Podcast with Irvin Scott and Melissa Santos.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Grizzly Podcast. My name is Irvin Scott.
And I'm Melissa Santos. What's up? Woo, we're here.
What up? Today we've got our friend, our guest, actor slash rapper slash comedian slash podcast host. The man does it all. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, All That's very own Leon Frierson.
Woo! That's right. Leeboy in the building. Let's go.
Mr. Leeboy, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. Like as usual, you know what I'm saying? If I wasn't, I wouldn't let you know. No, I'm playing. Look. But no, everything's good, man. Thank you guys for having me. And I'm looking forward to our interview because I know you guys are in tap with the culture. So I like to get in tune with people that know what's up.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate you being on the show, man. I know you have a lot of things going on, so that's why there's so much to talk about. It all goes back to your acting career back on Nickelodeon's All That. And by the way, I'm repping today. Let's get this going, man. So going back to Nickelodeon's All That, you were on the show. You joined the cast back in 1997. You auditioned for the show. And from what I read, the audition process was a little bit interesting. You did some impressions of an old man, some nerds, Jim Carrey.
Oh, you wanted me to do my Mike Tyson? Look, I did a little Mike Tyson. I definitely did a Mike Tyson. I was real big on Jim Carrey. I don't know if you remember that damn fire marshal. I was
I remember
that fire marshal Bill. I was all over that damn laugh. I probably did some nerds. It sounds like you like remember a little bit better than me. Where'd you read that stuff at? I'm like, is that how it went down? Look,
I'll tell you something. So I recently got the Paramount Plus, man. So me and my nephew, man, we watch All That all the time, bro. He's got the reruns playing. So I'm watching everything, going back, just remembering things. And I'm like, yo, I remember this, and I seen All That, man. So no pun intended, right?
I was a big fan too, man. Oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Makes me feel a little old because I was back as a kid watching.
Showing your age, yeah.
If you know, we are a little bit, but it was just so good. It's just such a. That show was such a big part of like my youth, so it's really insane. Like everybody knows that show. Like anybody growing up, everybody knew Nickelodeon. Like that was, we were all into Nickelodeon. So it's really dope to be sitting here with you and just talking about how that process came to be for you. Right. So
yeah, appreciate that. Yeah. And, I was actually kind of in you guys' seat when it came to me actually getting on the show, because as you guys know, I came in seasons 4. And I was on seasons 4 through 6. And so I got to watch Keenan and Kel, Angelique, Katrina, Lori Beth, Josh, before I actually got on the show. Who was not a fan of Keenan and Kel? And so I definitely looked up to those guys. I mean, they look like me as far as skin colors. I'm like, that's me. That's me. Except for I was a baby. I was much younger than them. And I had just got into acting. But yeah, I knew that I had to come up with something special. And, I guess I did. And that definitely landed me the spot. So it was literally a dream come true for me. Had wrote it down in some diaries that I wanted to be on All That one day. And like in 2nd grade, like when it first came out. So it was like literally, I brought it to fruition. And it's funny because a lot of people think that in my first episode, I just walk down from the audience. And I'm like, hey, I want to be on the show of All That. Why don't y'all help a brother out? Is literally what I said. So a bunch of people think that's how it went down, but nah, I put in my work.
People think it's that easy. Like that's what it is. Like they're like, oh yeah, me. Okay, let me act. Okay, coming in. That's dope.
Yeah, I get that quite a bit. Is hey, I want to go to be in the audience and just walk on the show. I'm like, yeah, I wish it could have been that easy, but yeah, it's funny if you watch it back. My mom's actually sitting there right next to me. A bunch of the All That moms are surrounding her, and Wendy Raquel Robinson, which is one of my mentors and tutors. She was on Steve Harvey's show, also on The Game, which just got picked up for another run. She's sitting like 2 seats down from me, so I had my whole crew around me. It was a whole setup thing, and that was my introduction to getting on the show.
Did that bring you like nerves to have them? Do you remember feeling nervous that they were there, or did you feel like good that they were there? Like, okay, I got this.
I don't remember.
Oh, yeah.
I was so young. I was 10 years old. I mean, in general, like I would say that one of my superpowers is that I don't get that nervous, especially in front of live audiences. That's when I'm actually get more amped up. I really feed off the energy. So if I could put myself back into that frame of mind, I would say that I was super pumped to have them and have the audience around me. And I was running down the stairs, did a little dance. And then when I say something like, hey, why don't y'all help a brother out? Like, that's just me. Like, it's so easy. Like,
That's awesome.
And at the time, you had joined the cast with Daddy Tamborelli and Christy Knowings. Is that correct? So you guys came in and you guys were filling the void. It was Katrina and Angelique.
The only 2 that left. Amanda, she came on in mid-season 3. So she was freshly there. So she was there already. And I think it might have just been those 2 that exited at the time. Oh, and I didn't mention Elisa earlier in the original cast. She was obviously, had the cast picture in my head right now. Yeah, so I think it was just those 2 that were on their way out. Angelique might have left after season 2, actually. And then Katrina, had to exit. In a lot of ways, I think Amanda filled their void, and that at least was the plan of the writing staff. So, yeah. So for me and Christy being brand new to Nickelodeon, that was an awesome experience. We got very close, and then Danny Tamborelli obviously was an old veteran, had been on Pete and Pete for years, so he actually schooled us a lot in the game and gave us a cool perspective of being new to the cast, but still one of the most seasoned cast members there were, because he had been on Nickelodeon for years already.
Now, let me ask you this. Working with such an interesting cast of characters, especially because, they all did their thing. I believe that each one of you all had your own thing going. Keenan had Super Dude. Kel had Ed from Good Burger. You had Billy Fuco. Amanda had...
and Leroy and Fuzz, yeah.
There you go. Leroy and Fuzz as well. So what was that experience like?
Well, like I said, Keenan and Kel was literally like looking at my favorite pop star. Like I was just a super fan. Anytime I got to get around them and just soak up some game and, just soak up their energy, particularly Kel, he's the way he is, the way you see him is how he is, like damn near 24/7. So he's like a really fun person to just know, so I was literally a lot of times, in skits, just watching, not really even being a character all the time, just because I was so like thrilled with just being around those guys. And like Amanda Bond, she was like a best friend for me. We were both the same age, so it was just like we were in school together, running around the set, and it was just kind of my run around buddy. And then everyone else, is just so damn talented. It's in particular Christy Knowings, like she has this thing. She could do like 40 accents and, she's from New York, has this great background. So I always just wanted to know her. And she was like a big sister to me. They were all just like big brothers and sisters, and I just wanted to really hang around them, which was hard when you're like the small one, like, so, but in general, yeah, I was just like the kid of the cast, me and Amanda, and I was definitely the youngest.
Yeah, Leon, I know you were on the show until the end of season 6, which was back in 2000. Did you still keep in contact with any of your castmates after that? I know you recently did the Zoom reunion with the entire All That cast, but was there still some sort of contact after the show and before that Zoom reunion?
Hell no. I would say a few choice relationships definitely kept up with. Danny Tamborelli was always a close friend. Christy, Angelique and I had she wasn't in my cast, but we had some, experiences together even before with our acting training under Wendy Raquel Robinson. And so, we kept in touch. But nah, man, it was one, Keenan and Kel took off. They were continuing to do, their thing. They actually ended up splitting up. But in general, I would say that, I took a couple years in the game. I was still acting, going around. But I didn't really keep any close relationships with the cast, just to be honest. Mark Saul actually was still a pretty good friend of mine too, even years after. You would see people at events, or we used to do a whole lot of like autograph signings, and people would ask for the whole cast. And every once in a while, people would turn up. It would never be everyone, but so I would see people like Katrina at things. All the outcasts. I'll just say all the outcasts of the cast got together, and we kind of still created our own little band.
You were still pursuing an acting career even after all that. You did Bullworth, Snow Day, and you also appeared in an episode of Boston Public. You played the role of Brady Bennett. What were those roles like compared to your time on All That? Was it a lot more? Was it still fun for you? What was the mindset like at that time?
Yeah, so I did like you said, I did a couple of things. I think I had done the Bernie Mac show. I had a couple of guest appearances that were really fun. I would say Bernie Mac in particular was probably my favorite project outside of All That. Obviously, getting around the legend, and that was a show that I was really interested in. So I just found that, in general, acting, I'll just say that it wasn't probably my calling or what I naturally was drawn to, at least at that time, because I really only wanted to do roles that interest me. I'm a comedy guy. I'm an urban guy. I love music, and I love, being part of the culture and getting with the people. And, when I'm Brady Bennett playing the drums and being a nerd and getting bullied on Boston Public, yeah, I booked the role, and that's exciting. But I wasn't really into I would say showing those other facets of my personality at the time, like being the small nerd. But in actuality, that's how I am maybe perceived. In these casting rooms, because I was so small, so young looking. But, I thought I was cool and getting the ladies, you know what I'm saying? Like where the ladies at, bro? So that was a hard, pill for me to swallow, for sure, wanting to get into some of those more mature roles, some of those high school roles. But I just looked so young. I looked out like I was still 12 and 13 all the way up to I was 16 and 17, at least from the Hollywood perspective. Right. So, a lot of that played into me, taking some time off. I did that a couple times, and probably shortly after Boston Public is when I was like, I'd rather just be in school, because that stuff, auditioning takes you a lot of time off from school. You have to leave school 2-3 times a week to go to an audition you really don't care about. When I was making these great friendships, just being around the guys, I was a clown dancer and stuff. We'll probably get into all that that stuff later. But yeah, I had another life that I think I wanted to pursue, which kind of took me away from acting.
And speaking of that other life, was that your music career? Because I know you also were rapping back in the day. Your rap alias was Leeboy, is that correct?
Yeah, so it started off from clown dancing. I was real big on that. Battle Tommy the Clown, and I'm from the IE, and so we was have one of the top crews out here.
Same.
Hey, IE gang. Hey.
Yeah, same.
You remember Ice Clowns? Look, Ice Clowns, I beat up on them.
Shout out to the IE.
For sure. I'm still out here right now, right here up in Rancho.
Yeah, I lived in Rancho too. So yeah, that's dope. Okay. You're like IE.
Yeah, I ripped the gang.
You're bougie IE though. Bougie.
Well, I was, back then I was
hates on Rancho. They're like, oh, you're from Rancho.
That it is different. Look, and back then I was, I grew up in Pomona, but really it was Phillips Ranch, which is
I was just gonna say, you grew up in Phillips Ranch. It's the Beverly Hills of Pomona.
Yeah, it's the bougie look. We said a couple little ranch lines, but we never threw out Phillips Ranch like that.
You can't do that. You can't.
Hell no, that was career suicide for sure, as far as a rapper. So yeah, it really came organically from, like I said, being in a dance crew. We had a group, or what is it called? A club in high school called Club Circus. And so we had formulated this, we had like 30 members and all these girls, that's when everyone wanted to pop and shake. And so we did choreography actually in school and we ended up getting like credit for class. Like it was like a dance class. We turned it into a whole period.
PE class or something.
Yeah. The dance teacher let us come in there and she was like, just come in here and y'all can bring your boombox. And they just let us go outside. A lot of times we just left, to be honest, and went and bought CDs and stuff like.
And they just let you.
They just let me let us kind of do whatever.
Were you like kind of a celebrity though in your high school then? Like, I mean, like that's why they're like, you can do whatever you want. You want to turn this class into credit? Go ahead.
Yeah, they let me. Well, I was running like the not the assemblies, but like the rallies. I was running all that stuff. We had, like I said, we had the whole crew come out, battle. We was battling the mascot, and so yeah, the buddies that I had with those, my three closest buddies. Well, there was 4 of us, but only 3 of us rapped. We ended up formulating a group called The Circuit. And we put out 3-4 mixtapes, some by Mick Boogie, DJ K Sly hosted some of our mixtapes. And so, we were doing the damn thing back then. And yeah, it all started off from, us being together so much, just dancing and battling people. I was always making beats probably since I was like 12 years old. And I started rapping probably when I was 5 years old. I rapped to get my agent when I was 7. I most likely rapped in the All That audition just because. And so once I got with those guys, we formulated a group and, we tried to take over Hollywood, and we had a lot of fun doing it. So, I danced as Big Slim. My original rap name was Shaboy Malloy. And then once the group broke up, everyone just called me Lee. Everybody called me Leeboy. And so it was just something that people called me, and it just stuck. So it just seemed natural for me to be Leeboy. That's what people called me. So
it seemed like you still kind of had a little bit of who you were before, even as an actor. I mean, you just seem like this very like funny guy. You got such a personality. I want to go back to All That though, because I wanted to ask you about your characters that you played on the show. Yeah. You mentioned earlier that you were you were part of the Leroy and Fuzz sketches. You also did Billy Fuco. You did CJ and the Cloudy Nights. You did Repair Boy. Out of all the characters that you played on that show, what would you say was your favorite character on All That?
Obviously, most notably was Leroy and Fuzz. That's what people recognize me for. And they call me Leroy all the time. And it's really confusing now that I go by Leeboy, which is fine. I don't mind being called either. But my favorite sketch was definitely and I'll just say before I go on that it was really nerve-wracking being Leroy because I was in the scene by myself. Well, me and the puppet. We would do it in front of live audiences, where in the other skits, I got to play off king, play off kill. I just had 1 or 2 lines, but it was basically like a monologue or like a stand-up bit every time we did the Leroy and Fuzz sketch. So that one was a lot of hard work. Now, one of my favorite sketches, which like just seemed natural to me, it was CJ and the Cloudy Nights by far. I love singing, love dancing. And I'm really into soul music. If I had to pick a genre, that's my favorite. It's definitely R&B. Shout out to my boy Chris Breezy, the GOAT. But yeah, so I'm really into soul music and all that stuff. So being able to play CJ of the Cloudy Nights, which I'm guessing is like an ode to Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. It was the little one with the biggest fro, and I got to show my vocals in that skit, and then also. Wyclef Jean actually approached me about getting a record deal with him based on, my performance. He was there that week during the sketch. So that was, my favorite experience transforming into a character on All That.
Wow. Being a part of All That, man, you just mentioned Wyclef and how your involvement on that show and doing that sketch probably almost led to you doing some music with him or whatever. But, being around all those people that guest starred on that show, Kobe Bryant, man, I know he was on that show. I know you have an interesting story to tell regarding Kobe Bryant. I know you're a big fan. So you want to talk about GOATs? That's the GOAT right there, man. So tell us about Kobe Bryant. What was that experience like?
I can't tell the full story, but I will say that I'll give you some tidbits. I'm actually dropping a Kobe appreciation episode on the Prime Nostalgia podcast today, in the time that we're in now. It's probably already out by the time you guys see this, where I tell the full story. I can't get into it because it wasn't so favorable to Kobe. So I don't like to tell it on so many platforms. And I'll just say that I was a little bit upset. I was making it about me. I just wanted more time with Kobe. And, him coming on the set was like, for all the grown men there being, we're in LA, there's tons, I'm sure, of Laker fans. It was like they were all kids in a candy store. They're all pulling Kobe left and right. I need this for my kid. I need this. Like, what? No, I'm the cast member here. Don't forget. And then, he was in the whatever scene. So, Amanda and Christy, I'm sure, got tons of time with him. But I wasn't able, I didn't remember watching the scene or being down there on the floor when he was around too much. I tried to run into him and never got a picture. So I was just a little bit salty about it for years. But now looking back, I realized that, man, everybody just wanted a piece of Kobe. That's what it really comes down to. But, in general, Kobe, like you said, is just the GOAT. And I'm glad to have any type of connection with him. I will say I do have an autograph jersey from him. And if you go on the podcast, you'll hear the story of how I got it.
Kobe Bryant, man, obviously he had a tremendous legacy. And I think at the time when he was on that show, he was just starting out too, right? Like that was like his early years, man. So
everybody just knew though, right? Like you just knew, you're in his presence. You're like, that's it. Like it's that energy. It's like who he was. It was, everyone just knew. He's just always had that it factor.
And then at the time, it was just big news that he was like dating Brandy. And so I just remember like just thinking he was hella cool, you know what I'm saying? And I was a big fan of Nick Van Exel.
Yeah.
It was early, so he had to play up to the skills that we seen him like in the end. We always knew he had tremendous skills and infectious personality. And so, I didn't look up to him quite yet in that fashion as far as his basketball skills. Although I did my best to get next to him. I would have went harder for sure. And there's a number of guests that I could say that about just off the top. Destiny's Child. I didn't even care about taking a picture with Beyonce. I was like,
man, like when I was a kid growing up, dude, I used to watch Nickelodeon. Like I was obsessed with Nickelodeon, and I would watch all that. And I was always just like, damn, man, like I would love to be on that show. Just anything to do with that show would have been amazing. And the fact that you actually got that opportunity, man, I'm so jealous, bro. Like you got a chance to meet everybody.
I know.
You did all the fun stuff, dude, So
I know, man. I hear that so much. And what's great about Nickelodeon is kids like us can see ourselves on the screen because they're kids like us that are on the screen. And so in comparison to like not to take a dump on Disney Channel or anything, but they're the more cookie cutter, perfect smile looking kids. They got the comb over to the side and all that. And so but when you look at the All That kids, it's like I was wearing my FUBU and my Tommy Hilfiger like literally from my closet in the scenes. Like, so it was just a different feel. And
it was cooler.
It was more organic. It was real.
That's why people wanted to be on the show. Like, you don't hear people saying, I wanted to be on Lizzie McGuire when I grow up. No, that didn't happen.
I just wanted to be on anything Nickelodeon, and which shows like, All That that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, I need to go on that show. How do I get on that show? It was just everything, you guys, I feel like that's what I remember. I don't remember Disney.
Dude, I remember just dedicating that whole weekend just to watching Kenan and Kel, All That. And we would like run home, right? Like, if we'd be out with my parents, I'd be like, hey, man, take me home because I got to go watch that episode of Kenan and Kel. I got to go watch the All That show or whatever, right? But, going back to All That, the fact that also that show had such a very famous theme song. I'm vibing with the damn song, man. Shout out to TLC, Did you ever get a chance to meet TLC? Did they ever come by the show?
No, they came by in the early seasons of seasons 1 and 2 before I got there. But no, I don't think they ever stopped by in the later seasons.
Since we're getting nostalgic, let's talk about your podcast. Prime Nostalgia. That's the Prime Nostalgia podcast, man, with your boy Prime, of course. Let's get into it, man. What inspired the idea? The idea is basically you kind of recapping everything that was great, whether it was the 90s, 2000s, whatever. You guys talk about movies, TV shows, music. Tell us a little bit more about the podcast and what that's about.
Yeah, so Prime Nostalgia Podcast, available anywhere podcasts can be downloaded, streamed, listened to. Definitely go check us out on Apple. Leave us a review. We'd much appreciate it. And you can watch us live on YouTube, similar to how we've got it set up now. So I encourage everyone to go check it out. It started in the pandemic for me, at least. And I'll just go ahead and give Prime his credit. It's named after him because he started the show, and he interviewed me, and, I just kind of bullied my way onto the podcast. I'm like, nah, bro, I need a podcast. You've got one started. I don't want to start from the beginning. So you've already got 20, 30 episodes. Let me help you juice this thing up. And so, it was just a unique dynamic between the two of us, where he's like a little bit more reserved and nerdy. He's a little bit younger than me, but he's so into the culture of 90s Nickelodeon, and I recognized that right away, that he was an expert when it came down to that genre, that specific genre. And then obviously me, myself, I was there. I have experiences from the time, and I have my own favorites. Mine probably go back a little bit or a little bit different from his. And so that's where, for me, it was perfect. It made sense. If it was just me, I'd just be talking Boys in the Hood. I'd be talking The Wood. I'd be talking Five Heartbeats, just, all the classics that I see as classics. But for him, he's just a little bit more well-rounded when it comes to Disney Channel and stuff like that I didn't watch. So yeah, it just made sense for us to team up. And then obviously, I can help him get guests. But, with us being together, we're able to put together some awesome guests, some awesome shows and concepts. So yeah, we've had a good run of, getting these celebrity guests, and also just coming up with these topics that people are so interested in, because it just takes them back to a better time, a nostalgic time, the 90s, where talent mattered, right?
Absolutely, man. That was a great era, right, Melissa?
I mean, absolutely. It did matter. Now you just can do anything, and you're just like there. Like it's overly done. Like you're like, you don't know where to look. And you're right. In my opinion, there isn't the same talent there was before. There was something organic and real and just so different. I'm not saying there isn't talent now. There's tons of talent. I just feel like we have an overabundance of people that think they're talented because they have like a phone. You guys, like, it's just not the same anymore. Before, you had to like work hard, and you actually had to audition to do stuff, and people had to actually like, there's some good and bad from that. There's like, you can create, and people who are actually creative and really awesome can put their stuff out there without having to be in a specific place in LA, a hub, Atlanta, or anywhere where they're doing these things. But then there's also just too much. You're like,
it's saturated. Yeah. And like you said, it's not to really hate on anybody. It's really not about that. And, it is empowering for people to be able to, you want people to be able to pursue their dreams. Yeah. But before, there was a barrier, there was a filter where you had to get a record deal to get out here. And to get a record deal, you had to have talent. You had to be able to sing. Same thing with acting. You had to be able to get an agent. You had to be able to audition and get in these rooms. Otherwise, you just couldn't do it without the talent. But now, your following or viral ability or just you acting crazy can get you into these spots.
Anyone can go out there and do some weird stuff. You're just like, and it becomes viral because you're watching going, huh? And sometimes I bother myself. Like, I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to add to this viral video right now by watching it, because I'm like, what am I watching? And that's a little,
it's just the game's in a weird spot. And it really sucks though for the people that are talented, because you see them going out there doing things that they wouldn't necessarily do if they weren't needing the attention, because it is kind of a requirement right now to break into the game, to have some type of following or attention behind you. No matter how talented you are, it's really not the biggest factor anymore.
And especially because everybody that was on the show, All That, was all super talented. I mean, you look at the kids today, some of them look, not to take anything away from some of those kids that are probably taking acting classes, but it doesn't seem authentic as what it was when you guys were doing it. It's just a different time.
Trying to do something that just isn't there anymore. Like, at least not right now. Like, they're almost trying to like hold on to that. And it's like, nope, that happened. Let it happen. Like, just that's what it is.
I'll say that the kids definitely are still talented, especially the All That kids. I can vouch for them because I've been around them, but the authenticity is not quite there.
Writing is what really affects what is showcased, right? It's like choreography for a dancer. They could dance the hell out of anything, but if you give them like something that doesn't work, it's just not going to showcase their talent. Do you think that maybe that's what it is?
I would say it could play a part. I would say that the writers probably have their hands tied behind their back because of the climate of things in general, and that they're trying to fit a little bit more cookie cutter mold, or they're trying to appeal to the, what these younger audiences deem as funny. So, I would say that there definitely are some highlights from the new show. I love Cardi Beef. I don't know if you've seen. Yeah. There's a couple skits, and then when Gabrielle plays Beyonce, and she also plays Cardi B on All That. Those are some of my favorites. But yeah, it just seems a little bit. I'm gonna be honest, it just seems a little bit more corny now.
Is it not doing what the original All That did?
I would say we had our corny moments as well too. It sometimes it just got out of hand, and you just want to just go back to what it used to be before it was so produced, before there was so much money and power behind it. I think those are still some of the best moments took place. Remember Ross Perot on season 1 and 2, and Earboy, Earboy and Pizza Face, like those didn't really carry on into our season. So we did have Principal Pimpel. He had that damn pimples. But those skits actually were less and less during our seasons, and so I would always defer to even those being more nostalgic and more authentic than ours. And in the new seasons, there is also the forgotten seasons is seasons 10 through seasons 7 through 10, which is like Giovanni, my guy Brian Hearn,
Jamie Lynn, Britney Spears' little sister.
Jamie Lynn, that class as well. And they call themselves the forgotten class, is where you kind of just see it. You see it take a turn, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch any of those. But I would say I like the new direction of the current season, especially some of the young kids that are on there, Aria, Gabrielle, Lex. Those kids are uber talented. They can do anything that they present to them. All that was a little bit gritty. It was for kids, but there was definitely an edge to it. So I just think they need to concentrate on bringing back that edge, pushing the envelope, and just lose so much of the produced feel, and let those kids go, because Kel,
let him flow.
Kel was just going off.
Yeah, when
he was Coach Cretin.
Yeah,
that stuff wasn't in the skit. Like Keenan as Pierre goddamn Escargot. He's just he kind of knew what he was gonna say, but those laughs and just the way he was able to get away with stuff, that's one of my favorite skits to watch, is Pierre Escargot. But in general, a lot of those skits were them just going off, and I just don't see that same feel from the new class, where they're just kind of given the keys and let them just do whatever comes naturally to them. I just don't get that same feeling.
Out of all that basically spawned an entire universe for Good Burger. There was a movie, and then there was a pop-up. That pop-up went down in West Hollywood 2 years ago. You were part of it. I know you were out there with Sinbad and the rest of the All That cast. What was your involvement in all that, man? What did you think about it?
So they just reached out to me. It's like, hey, you want to come out? And I jumped at it for sure, because it had been so long since I had seen the cast. Specifically, Kel, which I did not see that night. It was just a good time. I took my kids out as well. We had a great trivia night. And I love meeting the fans. But in general, like I said, it was a great time, great meeting up with the cast. We all get together, sing the intro. We always got to sing the intro and wrap that out. So it's just good. It was good getting back with my brothers and sisters. And it had been, like I said, years since I seen them. The last time probably would have been, I think, in 2011 when we did Comic-Con or Kamikaze. in the convention center downtown LA. And so that was probably the last time. It had been like 8 or 9 years since I had seen them.
I saw Kel a couple of times at like different signings, and like, I mean, he's like so popular. Like there are lines wrapped around like buildings just to see him. And he's like, you know, doing all his impressions and doing like all the good burger, like he's doing everything, and he's doing it for like every single fan, including me, because I'm there and I have a video of it. He was like,
yeah, bro. He's like,
yeah. He's like, all right, welcome to Good Burger, and he's like doing the whole thing, and I'm like, and he has the same. You're right, he has the same energy. Going back to that, like that's just him, like the whole time, like and he doesn't ever turn off, and it's incredible, you know. And so I know fans always would love to have you guys. I mean, like, I want to meet Lori Beth. I'm not going to lie, because like, I thought she was so talented.
Her and Danny Tamborelli every once in a while do a little tour where they get together and engage with fans. So I know it probably stopped during COVID.
Yeah, like
but
everything else, yeah.
They've done it, you know, for a couple years before. So I'm guessing that it will reprise soon. So if you want to get next to Lori Beth, that would be a good way.
Yeah,
to do it.
I'm a big fan of that.
That's awesome. Just so many cool people that came out of that show. Nick Cannon, Amanda Bynes, Gabriel Iglesias, who I think a lot of people forget that he was actually on that show too. Fluffy, you know?
Fluffy. That's one that I have not been able to keep up with or catch up with. You know, he's I'm just in his DMs the same way I was in Keenan's DMs, and it's just like, bro, you got like 2,100 million followers. That's probably ahead of me. So I'm gonna just keep tagging him. Yeah, just hit me up, bro.
Such a cool show to be a part of. Obviously, you know, all that will live on forever, even when we're not here. You know, Nickelodeon will be around even after we're all gone. What would you say your fondest memory is?
Fondest memory of All That. You know, I would say meeting the fans afterwards. So after every live show, and just the live shows in general, there's two. And they're both kind of, it's not one specific moment. But obviously, all the musical guests, every single one, you know, was just a dream come true to me. I was a big fan of music. Like I said, I've been rapping since I was like maybe 7 years old was when I wrote my first rap. Seeing those guys up close and in person was literally the biggest draw of the show. And that is where we became fans instantly. You got Busta Rhymes, you got literally Britney Spears, the Spice Girls, NSYNC. All these people were on the show. They took over our green room. We couldn't even go into our own green room when Britney Spears was there. So it was like literally, you know, these were fans. One of the biggest ones though that I didn't get to meet was Lauryn Hill was on our 100th episode. She, I think, was in the Rose Bowl, and it was like tele-viewed or whatever. So we didn't get to meet her in person, but huge fan of Lauryn Hill in that album. And so it was just, you know, to share any experience or any stage with them was just, you know, a dream come true every time. But then meeting the fans, though, after every live show, we would sign autographs for hundreds of kids. They would be, you know, I was 11, 12. I used to have 14 and 15-year-old girls like, you know, hugging your boy, you want to give him a little kiss. I was, you know, I felt like the man. I ain't gonna lie. I just love interacting with people in general. But then when they're fans of you and they just are looking forward to meeting you, you know, it was always a special moment.
What do we got going on next, man? What are you currently working on right now? I know you got some projects that you kind of got in the works right now. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, man. So I did, yeah, and that's the reason why I wanted to come on, because I am working on a project with some of my child star friends. Nice. Some people from the cast of All That. Angelique Christie will be involved. You know, my homegirl Latangela from Taina, and you know, Jermaine Williams from he was from the Jersey, and also he was Mushmouth, and Fat Albert, Great Debaters. The list goes on for that guy. We're working on a project, and we're talking about those in the meantime, in between times for child stars and what we had to go through to get to where we are today. You know, not so many people are as lucky as us to get out with our you know, with our right mind. I was going to say our scruples. I don't even know if that's quite the word, but it's, you know, we still have something that we can lend on as far as our talent. So we want to represent what it's like for that transition. And I was just dealing with my own stuff. And so, I want to be able to tell that story, not only for myself, but some of our best friends that are going through something. But I want everyone to stay tuned, stay close to me and some of those names that I just mentioned. You'll be able to find them all over my Instagram page. We got some pictures together. We'll be talking about this more and more as things get closer. But yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. It's an exciting journey for people to see. So everyone definitely stay tuned with me.
That sounds wonderful. I think that's really important to be talked about.
People that have been privy enough to seeing the behind the scenes footage and some of the early goings of the project are like, bro, I want to see more. This is a story. Like every single person has their story of, of what took place. So many different elements, to where people are at. So it's going to be a fun ride, and hopefully it'll be on a screen near you. I'll just say that.
The Grizzly Podcast is basically a podcast that just focuses on people that are constantly hustling, just grinding. You're obviously somebody that's
on
doing
the Grizzly.
That.
Okay,
that's where the Grizzly. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for anybody that's watching this right now or listening to this, if they can take something away from this podcast episode here, if you had any advice for these people as far as like pursuing their dreams, what would you tell them?
Don't just do it for the fame. Make sure that, you're attached to something that means something to you, like the project that I just described. Make sure that if you're attached to something that you really love to do, it makes the work so much easier and it makes the work so much fun. Well, I'll take back the word easy because, we are on the Grizzly. You got to grind it out no matter what, but it makes it worth it to you versus chasing an imaginary dream that someone else may have put in front of you. So find that thing that you would literally die for and keep chasing that, but also make sure that you got some way of funding your lifestyle. So don't get so deep into your passion that, everything else is lost, but find a way to make your passion work for you. Chase your dreams is what I would say to people.
I love
well
that.
Said. Yeah, well said. For anybody that wants to connect with you, where can they find you on social media? Plug everything, man. The podcast, your social media, websites, whatever.
Let's go.
First, Leeboy TV is where it's at. At Leeboy TV on Instagram. LeeboyTV.com is where you'll find a compilation of everything that's important to me. Mostly all the podcasts, the biggest podcast episodes that we've had are right there on my homepage. So if you want to watch Tommy Davidson, you want to watch us talk to Keenan, or you want to watch us talk to Cherry, or want to see the All That Zoom reunion, which I know you want to see if you're watching this. Mm-hmm. Find it on LeeboyTV.com. Show us some love for sure. And then as far as the podcast, at Prime Nostalgia Pod on Instagram, P Nostalgia Pod on Twitter. We love to engage with our fans on Twitter as far as topics and finding out what their favorites are out of our list that we do. So definitely tap in with us on all those elements and on all those platforms. But all of that is accessible through LeeboyTV.com. So don't play around. And also you can get these tees. I've got my own line of All That inspired gear called All Swag. Instead of the dreads up, the dreads are down. So check that out. And so, everything, like I said, is right there through LeeboyTV.com. You can buy the shirts from TeePublic. Just find the link right there on the website. And so, that's where you can find me. And check out my guy Prime, too, KVNG Primetime.
Good dude, man. Really nice guy. Very polite. He knows his stuff as far as like what you mentioned, all this nostalgic stuff that you guys talk about. He really knows his stuff. He's really into it. He's also a big wrestling fan. He told me that he's a big fan of Melissa. So I'm sure we'll have him come on one time and talk to Melissa as well. Right, Melissa? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the Grizzly Podcast. We want to thank our guest today, Mr. Leon Frierson.
We on our Grizzly out here. Yeah,
it was a pleasure having you on the show, man. I encourage everybody to check out the Prime Nostalgia Podcast. It's on social media. It's on Instagram. He already gave you the social media handle, so please make sure you guys go over there and follow them. Check them out. They got all kinds of stuff. He mentioned the All That reunion on Zoom. He's got
that merch.
They're talking about merchandise right now. He's got all kinds of stuff going on there, so be sure to check him out and give him a follow. Shout out to our guy Prime as well, who's also a part of the show. And with that being said, Melissa and Irvin, Mr. Leon, we're signing off here. You take care, brother.
Thank
Peace.
you.
Take it easy.
Get it pop. Let's get it.
Yo, that's what I'm talking about. Yo, turn it up.
Hard work, dedication, and progress. Stay on your Grizzly.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out another Grizzly Podcast episode. We'll see you next time.